So I was in prayer one day and God told me something that changed my life forever. He said, son, just be it. Stop selling yourself short. Walk in wealth. And for years, I felt like God was limiting me. I was a young entrepreneur, hungry, driven. But every day, it felt like there was a cap on my income. I believe God was keeping me small on purpose. And don't get me wrong, He can do anything. But looking back, I realized that it wasn't God. It was my subconscious mind lying to me. I thought He was putting a cap on my income every day. Like, you can only make this much this day. But really, it was my own limited belief system that kept me bound. And after this one shift, everything changed for me. Because most people never pray about their next move. Most people never ask God for clarity. They just go with the flow and hope it works out. But you need to hear from God as much as possible. Because one word from Him can break every ceiling in your life. So watch until the end of this video, because after these shifts, I truly believe that your life will never be the same. So at the time, I was praying, reading, serving others, but I was still broke. I had skills, I had ideas, and I was hungry. But every time I started to gain momentum, something would happen. Like a car crash, a deal would fall through, maybe a business relationship would fall out. It felt like there was something invisible, like a glass ceiling. And I started to underliningly think, well, maybe God is limiting me in my heart. And I thought maybe this is just my portion for the day. Maybe I'm not meant to prosper like this. Maybe God is trying to keep me humble. I would fast and pray, but still feel stuck financially. Maybe God is really just withholding from me. Now, don't get me wrong. Sometimes God will assign you to a 9-to-5 job, maybe for a specific season, where there is a cap on your income. And it's not punishment. It could be development, where He's refining your character. Not that He couldn't send you to a job to humble you, because He can, but He's teaching you stewardship, and He's preparing your heart for what's next. So when God releases you, though, it's different. You're building with Him, and you're walking in what He called you to build outside of maybe a boss or traditional brick and mortar job, and He'll begin to stretch you and stretch your capacity. Not that there's not a cap, but the cap can be higher than what you were living under before. And the more wisdom you seek, the more He'll expand your ability to handle more. And the more obedient you are, the more favor He trusts you with. So in my case, God had already given me permission to build, but my mindset was still operating from limitation. And that's what kept me stuck. So when wealth is already released, it's waiting on your agreement. Let me tell you something that'll shift your whole walk. When God has already spoken over your life and released blessing, He's already spoken abundance over you. But if your subconscious mind, your inner beliefs, are not in agreement, you will block what heaven wants to pour out. And Proverbs 23:7 says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. So even though God may declare wealth over your life, if deep down you believe wealth is evil, or you can't produce wealth like others, or you're not worthy of it, or it'll make you too arrogant, or pull you away from God, you will subconsciously sabotage every breakthrough. Think about the times where God has already spoken over your life. He's already given you a prophecy over your life, and you don't remember it in the time where you need it. So this is why I'm so keen on writing things down, because even in the Old Testament, there's a scripture where it says, I meditated on the night watches. I remembered what God said in the midst of battle, or in the midst, I'm paraphrasing, but in the midst of turbulence, in the midst of turmoil. I need to remember, because things are going to get hectic. And God has already spoken to me what I am, who I am, and what I'm supposed to do. But if you don't remember that in the heat of the moment, your footing slips and you allow the enemy to come in and sell you short. And the enemy knows this. He doesn't even have to stop you directly. He just has to plant one lie in your thinking, one religious belief that says money is bad, one painful experience that makes you afraid to succeed, one lie that says, did God really say that? Are you really called to this? And boom, you become your own gatekeeper, and you're limiting what God can do in your life. I want to talk about a time where there was a $100 favor from God. I want to share a moment that changed my life forever. One morning, I was in deep prayer, just spending time with the Lord, not asking for anything, just loving on Him, being with Him, and worshiping. And I felt this overwhelming peace. Like I didn't have to force anything, just move with the flow of what God already prepared. Not that I shouldn't work or focus on working hard. I'm all about the grind, but it reminded me your posture has to come before your grind. So I left the house with clarity and confidence, not because of some clever strategy, but because I had already aligned again my spirit with God's presence. And later that day, I went to see a client. I showed up full of peace, excellence, and love. And after we finished, the client said, you know what? Man, I just really appreciate how you made me feel today. Here's $100. I want you to have it. You make me feel good. And I looked at it and I'm like, really? And I didn't ask for it. I didn't even need it. But that $100 was confirmation from God. Favor flows when your posture is right. Not that God won't bail you out when your posture isn't right, because he does that too. But grind without presence leads to burnout. So being aligned with him, posturing yourself before God. So most believers don't pray for any financial strategies. Here's something wild. Most Christians pray for provision, but never seek God for the strategy. So they say, God, bless my business, but never ask God, what business should I be building? Or, Lord, who is the client I'm called to serve? Or we go into careers and projects without consulting heaven, and then wonder why things aren't working out the way we thought or the way they could be. And then when things fail, we cry, why me, God? So let me ask you something. When was the last time you prayed for the next step? Not your next paycheck, your next strategy or instruction. Because sometimes you don't need more hustle, you need divine direction. James 1:5 says, if any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask God, who gives to all generously and without reproach. That means God is not withholding blueprints. He's not hiding the business idea. He's not silent about your calling. He's just waiting for you to ask and obey. And so the spiritual warfare around wealth, we can talk about, this isn't just about mindset. This is a literal warfare. There is a battleground for your finances, not just in the bank, but in the spirit. Because if the enemy can keep you broke, he can keep you distracted. And if you're distracted, you won't build what God called you to build. So look around. Why is it that the most demonic agendas are fully funded? Why are the most perverse content creators becoming millionaires, while people of God are still arguing if it's okay to charge for their knowledge? Here's why. The enemy funds his people. God is trying to fund his people too, but we're rejecting the blessing because we're afraid to look worldly. So they can ask for a bunch of money, but we can't ask for the amounts of money because we're kingdom kids. We need to fix that mindset. Let me say this loud and clear. Wealth is a weapon in the right hands. If God can trust you to store wealth, he will release it, but he will not pour out what you won't build a container for. That's your action, that's your faith, that's you moving your feet. You must sow and scale. So let's talk about real practical stuff. One of the biggest blocks to wealth is refusing to sow. You want overflow, but you're not putting seed in the ground. For example, if you're a farmer and you're planting seeds, do you think God is limiting you when you plant, let's say 500 seeds of trees, apple trees? If you plant 500 seeds, the majority of those seeds are going to grow. Some will die off, but the amount is what I want you to focus in on here. So the Bible says that you reap what you sow in Galatians. So ask yourself, how many seeds did I sow in my business today? I used to go door to door and shovel snow when I first started out as an entrepreneur. How many houses did I go up to, right? If I just went to one house, what can I expect? One account. But if I went up to 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, maybe I would land maybe 5 to 10 of those houses. So a lot of the limiting beliefs around our finances are caused by our own subconscious mind thinking that God is putting a cap on us. But in reality, again, if you want overflow, Luke 6:38 says, give and it shall be given to you. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and overflowing shall men give unto your bosom. But I'm not just talking about giving in church or giving your money or giving your tithes. I'm talking about giving seed where God tells you. Blessing others, investing in knowledge, building infrastructure, putting aside money for your marketing budget to run ads. You can't multiply where you've never sold. And you have to scale. That means you must create systems, build digital products if you're online, multiply your time, find models that grow while you sleep. If you own brick and mortar, then you would scale to another building. We serve a God of multiplication, but many of us stay in survival because we're afraid to think bigger. So let this be the shift. You are not meant to survive month to month. You are called to thrive, build, and fund kingdom vision. But that only happens when you get focused and you start to sow and you begin to scale with what God shows you. So subconscious blocks, again, that keep you broke. Let's break it down, a few of them. Number one, if I get rich, I'll fall away from God. This is a fear-based belief, but it's not money that corrupts. It's the heart that chases it without purpose. And me personally, I never wanted a lot of money, so I don't really have that issue. But number two, I'm not worthy of the wealth. Now this is more like me. Many of us carry shame from our past, our failures, or generational poverty. Romans 8:1 says there's no condemnation in Christ. Eradicate all that familiar thinking and replace it with a renewed mind. What God says about the situation, what God says about you, and what He's promised you. So number three, making money should be hard. Some of us are addicted to the struggle and think suffering proves our holiness, but sometimes struggle is just poor strategy. And number four, I have to wait till everything's perfect. That's a lie, procrastination. God blesses movement. Start with what you have and adjust on the way. Remember, David took down Goliath with a sling and a stone. If he thought he had to have a whole army to take down Goliath, he would have never went forward. He would have never won the battle. So lastly, what you can do today. So let's land this with some action steps. Here's how to align your life for financial favor and overflow. Number one, I always say it, get into God's presence daily. This is your source. The more you carry His Spirit, the more favor you will walk in. Again, if you're not connected to Him and you're just doing what you want, He can still bless you and He can still show you grace. But the more you spend time with Him, I just find more favor follows. Number two, ask God for specific strategy. Write it down, like it says in Habakkuk. Write the vision down, make it plain. Expect an answer, and then move on with what He shows you. Write down your ideas. Sometimes it's a gut feeling. Like there's things where I would buy and make big purchases, right? But I would weigh it in my spirit. I would see in my gut. I'm like, am I supposed to do this? And there's a lot of times where I would go a certain direction and I would get a check. It's like just a awkward feeling, like, no, not that direction. Even with YouTube, like, He'll show me, no, don't go this way, go that way. So you got to be sensitive to that. And by fasting and prayer and reading, you ignite your spirit and focus in on the leading that He's given you. And number three, again, so where He tells you, this includes time, resources, energy, and finances. Obedience unlocks provision. Number four, build systems, not just hustle. Even though hustle is necessary at times, start creating things that can multiply products, offers, brand assets. Let your vision grow beyond just hard labor. Also, assets can be books, something that you can sell over and over again that can make money even while you sleep. Trainings, simple things, showing people how to do things that you know how to do. A lot of you have skills that you're just sitting on. People want to know how you do things. Number five, surround yourself with others who have a like mind. Isolation breeds stagnation, so be around people who challenge you to grow. This is why I always go to masterminds. I've paid thousands of dollars to go to masterminds, and they're life-changing. Like, I would still pay, and I believe there's a principle there in paying, because when people pay, they pay attention. If I were to go there for free, I wouldn't see the importance as much, right? I may gain the information, but I may not feel the urgency because I didn't really pay for it. So I might not treat it the same way. And I've gone to masterminds, and what they are, it's just a simple term. When people get around, they share the knowledge that they have, that they've accumulated over the years, all in one setting, right? So you're getting high-level information from people that have spent years perfecting with whatever avenue or venture they've been into, and they're sharing that with you. And again, I've been to these, and one word has changed my entire life. That's why I will never say do not pay to go to a mastermind, because sometimes there's people there that God has put there for a reason, right? And sometimes if you would have never paid, you would have never went, you would have never, so I don't know, I believe everything is like kind of a divine aligning, right? And you have to be led, again, when I talked about being led by your spirit, you have to get good at that. So bringing it all together, it was never God holding you back. It was never God withholding wealth from you. It was maybe a habit you wouldn't break, a fear you wouldn't face, a prayer you never prayed, or time alone with God where you never sought strategy. But today that changes, because now you see it, now you're aware, now you have the authority to dismantle every mental stronghold. And wealth is waiting on your agreement, the kingdom is waiting on your obedience, and the world is waiting for what you're called to build. So let's go get it. And that's it for this video. If this video has changed your life in some way, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. and share it with someone who might need it. And if you want another level of focus to be able to produce more wealth, I invite you to check out my accelerated mindset training. This is the exact mindset that changed my life forever. How I'm going to get more done in less time, how I'm going to stay hyper-focused, and to start crushing my goals like clockwork. And I also launched the One Person Business Digital Empire Blueprint, where I show you how I made a whole salary online with the principles in the training. Links down below. Build your empire. And I did just recently add the Accelerated Mind to the Empire Builder Blueprint, so you can go ahead and get the 2 for 1. Links down below. Again, build your empire. And if you need any help or have any questions, feel free to reach out. And again, that's it for this video. Be blessed, and I'll see you on the next one. I'll see you soon.